What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips where we get it in, right? And before we do anything, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Let's put that notification bell on all so that you're abreast of all the dope content I'm bringing all week long because we got a whole lot for you. Now, what I wanted to talk about today is something that not a lot of people talk about. You know, we've heard stories and different content related to Asian gang members, Asian gangsters, man, all the way from the history of how they came to the United States, man. They got influenced, they got in the mix, man, and they came quite viciously and violently. But I've had the privilege to meet a lot of real ones over time, you know, in due course in history. In my history, man, I've met a lot of good dudes, man. Asians, one thing I could say about the Asian people, they're very respectful, very quiet, keep things to themselves, don't say much, but will get with the activities in the program quite efficiently and directly. In a menudo style, a direct fashion, that's just the way they do it. At least the ones I've been around. There's a heavy presence in the Central Valley where I'm from, Merced, California. The Hmong community. The Hmongs are very deep. The Vietnamese, Laotians, just thick, man. Cambodians, very thick. They came out of nowhere. The block exploded. They definitely got in the mix, man. Started to form gangs. And one of the first gangs that I came across in Merced was a gang called M.O.D. Now, some people call them Masters of Destruction. Some call them Menace of Destruction. But the M.O.D. influence in the city of Merced was heavy. Very heavy presence, man. They weren't the ones to be fooled around with, played with, fucked with, period. None of that, man. Because one thing that everybody knows about the gangsters, them motherfuckers got weapons, eh? They got weapons, right? And they ain't scared to use them. And, hey, quietly as it's kept, there's been many a times that they've had to. Now, we've all heard about the history of the tiny rascal gangsters with maybe the Longos down south, down in Long Beach. A war that brewed for years is still going. Vatos got off where they were mad at, man. There was a heavy presence of Asians down in Long Beach. And of course, it being more of a Mexicano city, man, them Vatos were over there twisting them up. And I'm not talking about blunts. But in the little old city of Merced, man, there definitely was some Asians that were making their presence felt. And that was the M.O.D. Now, over the years, I met a lot of good Vatos. Vatos like Shorty from M.O.D., Doughboy from M.O.D., right? But I think one of the most hardest individuals that I met that I could say, you know what, I had more of a history with them. He was solid as they came, solid as fuck, was a guy named Booger from Yep, I said it. And this ain't Revenge of the Nerds, homie. Booger from M.O.D. I say the guy's name to say this. He had an impact on my life being one of the most realest Asians that I ever ran across, right? Now, I didn't have a lot of contact or a lot of verbalage in between myself and Asians, man. It kind of was a respectful thing. They did theirs, we did ours. My hood never had conflict with M.O.D. We never had conflict with HBO, Homeboys Only. We never had conflict with Tiny Rascal Gangsters. We did have a lightweight confrontation and conflict with True Blues and Oriental Troops at one point in time. And that was more so because they leaned towards the Sureño side of things, man. I guess blue with blue because they were Crips and they were rocking that. They rocked with the Sureños at one point in time in Merced. And of course, there was going to be some conflict there. There was plenty of times, man, where we had to pull up, show up, and show out, and they did as well. You know, I can't take wins or losses and stack them up high, but one thing I can say is we definitely, man, had our fucking altercations. Let's just say that. But with M.O.D., it was always love. It was always trust. It was always respect. I did a lot of time from juvenile hall all the way into prison with a lot of these guys. And like I said, man, a very respectful people, but a people that we knew not to play with on any point and at any type of level because they'll get off. Now, Booger, when I first ran into him, man, I think one of his primos was my homeboy. Having a homeboy that was Asian and a norteño, man, I got the privilege of meeting a lot of Asians, man. Now, I didn't know necessarily where they were from. They were from a whole bunch of different gangs. But because my homeboy was a norteño, but was Asian, man, a lot of his family members would go to the same parties we went to, would affiliate and kick it with us. And there was just a lot of admiration, a lot of love and respect there. One of these guys that I used to kick it with quite extensively all the time was my little homeboy Pac-Man. Now, Pac-Man was from a gang called M.O.D. as well, or he was from M.O.D. And I remember he was a youngster, man. And actually, when I went on the run for my case that I initially went to YA for the very first time, that I went to YA, the only time, he was with me. We went on the run together. We ended up in Asheboro, North Carolina, arrested. And I remember them flying us back and thinking to myself, damn, this was a real one, man. He didn't have to go with me. He did. We were both young kids, man. And I remember some guys were trying to apply the pressure on him because he was the only Asian locked up there at that juvenile hall. And I had to get off where I was mad at for the homie. That's what real ones do for their homeboys. They back their play no matter what. And I've never been on that racial shit, man. So if someone wants to get off with the Asians just because he is what he is, well, guess what, homie? I know who I was rocking with. Woods. Sorry, brothers. I had to rock with the Asians, dudes. Right? It's just what it was. I can't let a gang of people jump on a guy just because he doesn't look like them or act like them. Fuck all that, man. He was solid. I was solid. That's what we were going to do. Solid shit. Now, he had a primo. And his primo I ran into for the very first time was at NRCC, which was the Northern California Reception Center in the Youth Authority. It was in Sacramento. And his name was Booger. He was from M.O.D. He was from Merced. And I remember the first time seeing him, he walked in, little short, stocky vato, like he didn't give a fuck about a care in the world, right? Like he was in it to win it, man. He wasn't playing no games. And I remember thinking, looking through my little old window with my study, I said, man, look at this Asian cat right here. He stands out amongst the rest. Most of them were very quiet, didn't try to bring too much attention to themselves. Not saying that this guy was like that, flamboyant. He just had that air and that attitude of him of a true gangster. Someone who was willing to do whatever at any point in time, man. I like that. That's the kind of arrogance that I had at that time. Was kind of like my shit didn't stink, man. Couldn't no one tell me nothing. I was going to do what I did. So I kind of like identified with it. So I remember seeing a man sliding a little wheel out the door. He was down the way from me and telling him, hey, I'm from Merced as well, Holmes. It's all town love. If you need anything, I got you. He said the same, many blessings, Holmes. I hope well in your career, wherever you go. Because, you know, when I was in this reception unit, you don't go everywhere. Everyone doesn't go to the same places. Some of us were going to Nellis, where I ultimately ended up going down south. Some were going to OH, Carl Holton, DeWitt, just depended upon your age, what you were into, how they felt, where they wanted to send you, man. No one dictated their own program. The administration was going to do that for you. You could kind of go places just based on your attitude and what you were into. If you got involved in a lot of riots and a lot of bullshit, being a norteño, you already knew they were going to shoot you down south. If you were a programmer and you just stuck to your own and minded your own fucking business, you were probably going to go to Owacha and Wacha. You were going to be over there kicking it. That wasn't the case for me. I got involved in a couple melees, a couple incidences. I caught my ticket, right? Jumped on the Green Goose. You already know where I went. To Fred C. Nellis, man. I was down south being embraced by a whole lot of Southsiders that didn't like me too much. But that's neither here nor there. Back to Booger. So Booger ended up going to OH Close from everything that I heard, you know, later on through our conversations. And I ended up going to Nellis, so our paths separated. But I always remember thinking about it when I met other Asians. I would tell them, hey, you know, Booger from M.O.D. And the cool part about the game was a lot of these guys knew of him or had heard his name, maybe because it's the name Booger, right? Or they had just heard him because he was a writer, man. He was really about his business. In either case, man, the vato ultimately ends up in Fred C. Nellis with me, right? So I remember I'm on a compa called Kennedy, chilling like a villain, doing my thing, trying to adapt to the fact that I'm stuck down south, man. I can't claw my way up out of there. And in walks this Asian cat, and I recognized him right from the gate. And I was like, Booger, what's happening? He didn't recognize me. He was like, what's up, bro? I was like, it's me, Gun, or Skins at that time, right? What's up with it? And he was like, oh, what's up with it, man? And bam, we hit it off, man. Being from the same town, same city, we could identify. Our lingo was the same. We knew a lot of the same people. And so he started to come and gravitate towards kicking it with the Norteños. Now, I remember about the time that this happened, we were heavily in the mix with the Southsiders, man. There was shit. Tension was brewing on that compa, man. This is right prior to them saying that we couldn't use microwaves and things of that nature. So we were feeling some type of way, right? There was a wheeler that was shot later on, and then we ended up getting off. But there was some things that were going on. People were talking about T-shirts, and you have to stand in the corner. And there was just a lot of rules and regulations we didn't want to adhere to that people were throwing out there, right? So it was about to go down. You know, you could feel when the tension's thick in the air. People are talking that high power shit, man. It's about to smooth over. Either that or it's going to handle, you know what I mean? It's going to be handled. In this case, more than likely, it was going to be handled. Because one thing I learned about that institution, that place, nothing got handled smoothly. You know what I mean? Everything got corrected violently. It was a violent place, man. It was a violent time. It was the 90s. It was guerra. It was war. It was North. It was South. It was Crips. It was Bloods. It was Hoovers. It was Bulldogs. It was all that, right? There was a little bit of everyone. Woods, you guys were even there barely, but you were brothers, right? And that's just how that was. Wasn't too many Asian cats that I recall. Like I've said before in spills, every time the TRGs hit a compa, they got rushed by Longo. So that was pretty much it, man. You weren't having too many Asians, but Booger was there. And he started to affiliate and associate real tough with the Norteños just based on me, where I was from, and he could identify with guys from Northern California. It's just as simple as that. Now, none of the Southsiders really tripped on him, and no one was really pushing or applying pressure to him because he was an Asian. One thing about the Asians, man, they get along pretty much cool with everyone, or they don't. It's either yay or nay. It's either I fuck with you or I'm going to fuck you up. Period. That's one thing I learned about the Asian people, man. The other card later on in life, in prison, we'll get to that, is that, man, they either are with you or they're against you, homes. There is no in between. They're not going to just nonchalantly fucking do their thing, homes. You're going to know that the presence is felt of the Asians, man. Straight period. So anyways, Booger would kick it with me. So I remember it was going to get to the point where a riot was going to kick off. Something was going to happen. And I remember telling him, you know, in the school area, especially, hey, bro, you might not want to stand by me in the school area. I got love for you and shit, bro, but I don't want you to get caught up on behalf of me. You know, because the type of dude he was he definitely wasn't starting any problems, going out of his way. But if a motherfucker got off because he fucked with me tough, he was going to ride with me, homes. And I appreciated and respected that. That's one of the things about him I always respect, is that he would get off where he was mad at. So anyways, I remember we're in the school area, man, and I was telling him, hey, bro, you might want to push off. I think it's going to go down. I got to walk behind this bend. You already know they're going to sucker fish me, sucker punch me, sucker jump me, man. I'm going to get jumped by a whole bunch of suckers, right? You know what I mean? I already knew. And it's crazy to sit back now and reflect and think back, like, people can't prepare themselves for that. When you know you're going to get jumped, you know you're going to get beat up, you know you're going to get ran up on, you know you better fucking start swinging. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, Holmes. Let it happen. There's no denying it. As soon as I hit that bend, someone was going to take flight, man. Motherfuckers were waiting, foaming at the mouth like rabies. You know what I mean? I can't wait for that buster to come back here, right? They were on us. And we were on them. It's just the way it was, man. Now in hindsight, retrospect, thinking back, I'm like, wow, what a fucking crazy way to live. And we lived like that every day. That's facts. So anyways, I told him, he was like, nah, I'm going to push with you, bro. I said, hey, you got to understand what you're getting yourself into. I say, you know what I mean? He says, yeah, if you make your bed, homie, you got to lie in it, right? He's like, it's all right. Guard! I'm a lie in this motherfucker. And so we hit that bed, man, and we did it tremendously that day. Marvelously, like Marv, right? We handled our business, and he was getting off with me too. Boom, 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 boom. And I remember as we're laid down, we're maced up, we're handcuffed, and we're looking at each other, and I was like, yeah, bro, I appreciate you. And he was like, don't trip, I got you. We're from the town. And forever I'll remember that and respect Booger. I remember, you know, that incident, we got separated. I think he got shipped up north. I don't quite recall what happened to him. He didn't come back to the compa, I know that. I ended up going back to the compa and going through hardships for about another year and a half, until ultimately I was sent to Preston. And then you guys already know the stories on how that ended up. The war with the Bulldogs was on, right? But we get out, and it's 96 into 97. It was July of 96, and I'm out, man, and I run into him at the fair. And I remember telling Booger, hey, what's up, bro? You remember me? And he was like, yeah. I shook my visa. It was good, man. And then over the years, man, what I heard, you know, he was getting involved in some shit. You know, I can't speak on exactly what he was getting involved in, but his name was ringing bells out there. The word on the curb was that Booger was putting in that work tremendously. So anyways, as far as it goes for Asian gang members, Asian gangsters, man, I have so many stories about so many real ones that I've ran into. You know, Little Man from TRG, Brownie from True Blue, just so many different ones. Bird from True Blue, who was a white boy but was Asian in the white boy. I don't know. I can't call it, right? So many different ones. But Booger stood out amongst the rest, not only because he backed my play, because he was willing to take on, you know, any adversary for someone that he believed was his friend. That's true friendship. You know, when you're a friend to someone, no matter what your race or ethnicity is or gang affiliation, man, if that's really your camarada, your homeboy, your taita, your cool, you know, someone you're cool with, then their shit will be your shit, and man, it is vice versa. Whatever, homes. Let's get it. You know, it's whatever. You know, when it's really not that, man, and when you really don't need that in your life, and I understand now at an older age, man, it ain't that, you know, because we're not gangbanging. But when you're gangbanging, you're young, homes, and you're a little funky. Fuck it, let's get funky then. Short but funky. And that's just what it is. I remember that guy, and I'll always have love. Now, M.O.D, when they hit the town, man, they were vicious. They were vicious. I remember my tia, she was a school teacher at the time, you know. And I remember coming home one day, I was living with her. I just got out of YA, and she was telling me about the M.O.D. And they had been around already prior years before that. But she was telling me how vicious they were, how they were taking machetes to the school area, how they were getting off with people, riots, and that the teachers and administration was truly scared of them. You know, one thing about the Masters of Destruction, and I know they did, I think, an A&E special or some History Channel special about them. They were really that. That was the one gang that I knew about. Now, I know the TRGs and the Asian boys are always getting all the shine and all the love, man. A lot of people have heard about them because they come from bigger cities like Long Beach, Fresno, Sacramento, Stockton. But when it came to the M.O.D, they were actually the biggest gang in our area, bigger than us, bigger than all the blacks. There was a lot of them, man. I remember one incident, Hmong New Year, right? We have a New Year called Hmong New Year, because there was a lot of Hmongs, heavy Hmong community and presence in Merced. And the homie was like, let's go, right? And I was like, nah, I don't really, you know what I mean? Because, you know, the Asians be lightweight tripping, bro. You know, during their little times of like their Hmong New Year or their religious holidays, like if you weren't really with that, bro, then what the fuck are you doing there, you know, stepping on their toes? But I was like, fuck it, let's go, right? And man, I seen a melee like no other, man. I don't know who the two groups, well, I know one group was the M.O.D, another group was some vatos out of Stockton, hums. I think they were the El Camino boys or Cambodian boys. I don't know, hums, but they came and these Asians got off. I mean, off, bro. That was fucking one of the most vicious melees I've seen to this day in my life. Vatos were getting hit in the head with fucking piñatas like dragons. Vatos were getting fucking smoke thrown in their eyes. Vatos looked like the Great Mudo, spitting green shit in people's face. They definitely, Asians play different. Now, of course, growing up and going to prison, I always had good relationships with the other car, right? Other car being the Usos, Asians, anyone that they associated with that they felt was considered another, but was mostly Asians and Pacific Islanders. They were all cool people, most respectful people I ever ran into in my life. And the Asians was about that, you know. And I remember a lot of the Asians, I always asked, hey, you know, Booger from M.O.D, they're like, yeah, I know him. I heard about him. Or, you know, he had a lot of respect, man. And that's why I wanted to do this video about him because, you know, I truly respect a real gangster in real life when I see one, man. You know, I'm not all about that gang life anymore, man. There's more to it than that. You know, there's life, there's jobs, there's family, there's making money, there's taking care of your people. And I understand that that's priority and that's number one in my life. But I give respect where respect's due, man. And I'll never forget the hand that someone put out there that I didn't spit in, man, that I grasped and I said, all right, Carnal. And he backed my play up. And I'm here to say, man, if Booger ever needed me, I would back his play on anything because that's what real ones do. Anyways, man, M.O.D is definitely one of the most vicious groups that I ever ran into. There's always a heavy presence of them in the system just because they don't play. You know, Asians is known to let it be known. You know, you just know what that is. Anyways, with that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Just wanted to tell a story of respect for the homeboy Booger from Merced, M.O.D, one of the realest and illest gangsters I ever seen, man. One of the hardest probably the hardest Asian gangster I ever seen. And not just because we fucking fought side by side, because he did some shit I can't even speak on. That motherfucker's real. With that being said, hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive to struggle, the struggle to strive, man. Recognize real ones when you see them. I give love here to everyone. Natives, Asians, Polynesians. You know what I'm saying? It's all about being real and respecting people. Respect is a key word in this lifetime, hums. It's not all about being Mexicano and only us, hums, because we make our voices be felt and heard, but others do too. Recognize real ones, recognize real ones. Sharp, steel, sharpen steel. That's just the way I was taught. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. Thank you all. And I highly appreciate you guys for support. You know what it is. This is the gun. Bang, bang. Orderly Booger. Remember?